I'm Andrew Schweitzer, and you're listening to the Boxing for Free podcast. It's been a long time since you've probably heard me. In fact, it's been so long I can't even remember the last time that I've recorded. And if you're willing to indulge me a little bit, I'm going to explain what's been going on. So I'm not going to lie. 2020 was not a year I'm going to look back on with any sort of fondness. Not a lot. And 2021 was not much better. It's a little bit of an improvement, but not by much. Okay? Basically, it's like saying, well, Logan Paul's better than Jake Paul. And to be honest, I can't tell either of them apart. So it's like, they're both bad. One's worse, but sure, one's probably better than the other. I just can't tell which. And unfortunately, that's resulted in me dealing with depression more openly than I've wanted to admit. I've been trying to put on this sort of mask, like, oh, well, I'm fine, I'm doing okay, and the truth is I have not been. There have been lots of times where I wanted to record a podcast. After Manny Pacquiao lost to Yordenis Ugas, I was like, holy crap, I have got to do something about this. Well, not about the result of the fight, but rather, I've got to talk about this. But the energy wasn't there. The desire was not there. In a way, I almost felt like a boxer who, you have seen this. A boxer will lose a fight and they'll just be like, my body just wouldn't do what I wanted to do. Like I could have won the fight, but I just didn't. I didn't lose, my body lost. And it's like, no, you lost, and I've been losing. Thankfully, Justin has not been very, very demanding of a podcast. He'd be checking in, asking, like, look, do you think you might have something? I said, I would try. Well, I've been feeling a little bit better, and, there had been times where I told Justin, like, look, I'm going to have something for you. Don't worry. Like, this week, there should be something, and nothing would happen. And he would not say anything. He would not come, knocking on my door saying, Schweitzer, where's the damn podcast? Because I don't know if he actually has my address, and also, like, it just wouldn't be worth the airfare to come knocking on my door when, it's like, dude, you've got the internet, just message me. But I told Justin, I'm going to have something for you, and I thought that I would give one of my favorite Bible quotes to let him know that, like, hey, even though I may have let you down, it's in your best interest to, not hold any grudges against me.
If we can forgive everyone, he shall forgive us. Amen.
Wow. So there you go, Justin. I hope that everything's good, and I hope that it won't be another 28 months for the next podcast. Ha ha ha. Well, we'll see. Anyway, I'm sure that Justin's very appreciative at the moment.
Thanks. I only had to ask you like 1 billion times.
So now that we're done talking about this, bout of depression that I've been battling, let's get to the news. So, the war in Ukraine. Well, I've been warning people for a long time, and even my coworkers will testify about this. I had no love for the Russian government or its leader, Vladimir Putin. Now, a lot of you are probably wondering, Andrew, that's not how you say his name. It is Putin or Putin. Hey, that guy's Putin over there. No, believe it or not, I'm kind of a linguist. His last name is Putin, and if you listen to the podcast, I'm going to play a clip which explains why it is pronounced Putin. The philosopher Gordon Ramsay will give a great, detailed explanation, sort of detailed. Either way, there are some very famous boxers from the Ukraine, the Klitschko brothers, Vladimir and Vitaly. The current heavyweight champion of the world, although Tyson Fury might have a few things to say about that, but Oleksander Usyk, the former cruiserweight champion and current heavyweight champion who's got a rematch with Anthony Joshua slated for June. He's in the Ukraine. I believe that Vasily Lomachenko is there also. And I gotta be honest with you, the Klitschko brothers, like, in fact, all of these boxers, but especially the Klitschkos, because Vitaly, he retired several years ago, and he's been the mayor of Kyiv. Like, the dude is inspiring. I mean, like, the stuff that I've been seeing of him on the news, like, I've been reading so many news reports as well. I've read one just this morning, and I thought, okay, this is talking about Vitaly Klitschko, mayor of Kyiv. How many times is it going to mention his boxing career? I did a little search of the document. The word boxing or boxer was brought up only twice. And this was an article, I think, from the New Yorker or the New York Times. I can't remember which, but it's kind of like they are not talking about Klitschko as like, oh, this former boxer. It's like, nope, this politician. And they're talking about how he did get his wife, his children, and his mother out of the country. They have been speaking daily. He told a story about how a 65-year-old man came up to him and said, Mr. Klitschko, the Russians destroyed my house. I'm homeless. And Klitschko said, well, what can I do to help you? And the guy said, give me a gun. I want to fight these people. And, the pictures of the Klitschko brothers, it's just inspiring. These guys, if anybody ever wants to say that, the Klitschkos didn't have any heart, no, that's a load of crap. And, this kind of proves it. Also, the interviews that Vitaly has been doing, there was just one that I'll play a brief clip of it.
Putin says he's only targeting military targets.
Bullshit. Sorry. Where is military target? This building is military target.
And they were standing outside of an apartment complex when they were doing that interview. It's kind of like it had been hit by rockets. It's like, I don't want to get into the the political discussions about this. Okay, I mean, yeah, Putin is scummy. Anybody who has a functioning brain and who doesn't have the philosophy of a Care Bear can see that the guy is scummy. Okay, I don't want any, he's just misunderstood or he's just doing what he feels is right. Oh, come on. Either way, all the props in the world to Vitaly Klitschko, Vladimir Klitschko, Oleksander Usyk. Usyk announced that he is going to go forward despite this invasion that's going on. Usyk has said, you know what, I am still going to do the rematch with Anthony Joshua. That's slated for June of this year. That's going to be very hard for both of these fighters going to the fight because Usyk's got to know he's got not just all of his fans, but he's got an entire country and maybe even the whole continent of Europe watching this guy and thinking, come on, just even though your opponent is not Russian, like what you're doing can be seen as inspirational for every Ukrainian who is dealing with the threat of Vladimir Putin. And for Anthony Joshua, there's a lot on the line because if he doesn't win this rematch, I've heard some people say, well, we've seen that Joshua does well in rematches. It's like, well, Joshua did well in his rematch against David Ruiz. Oh, sorry, not David Ruiz, Andy Ruiz Jr. Oh, geez, that... But no, he did well against Andy Ruiz Jr., but the reason he did well was because Ruiz got so fat in between the first fight and the rematch. Like, he barely did any training, and he just kind of undid all the good work that he did beforehand. But I think Joshua knows if I don't win this, like this, I could be seen as somebody, well, Joshua was good, but, he just couldn't step on the pedal sometimes. Whenever he fought somebody who was just a little bit better than him, he couldn't rise to the occasion. And I don't think he wants that to happen because I'm pretty sure he also wants a fight with Tyson Fury. But then again, Tyson Fury in his in the press conferences I've been hearing that he said, after this fight with Dillian Whyte that he's going to retire. And it's like, oh, come on, Tyson. No, don't do that. Wait for the fight between the rematch between Usyk and Joshua. Let's see what happens there, okay? I really don't want Tyson Fury to retire yet. I mean, all the props in the world to him for beating Deontay Wilder again. You know, it's funny. I actually bet on Wilder the first 2 times. If you'll recall, I said that Wilder was going to. I said he was going to knock Fury. Yeah, he was going to knock Fury out in the 11th round, and that's almost what happened. Except almost happened in the 12th round. So my prediction was off by a little bit, but it kind of came close in spirit. And I thought that Wilder would win the rematch just because I can't remember the opponent's name, but I don't think that Fury looked his best against him. But either way, let's hope that we can get a fight between Joshua and Tyson Fury. It's just what I want to see. It's funny. Ever since 2015, when Fury beat Vladimir Klitschko, I thought we're going to be entering this brand new golden era of heavyweights. And you know what? For the most part, it's been pretty good. It hasn't been golden. It's more like, I don't want to say it's silver either. It's almost kind of like bronze, or maybe a Canadian bronze, which is like 4th place. It's like, hey, you got 4th. That's pretty good, man. Good for you. But the rest of the world knows it's like, oh, it's not that good. But either way, one other thing I want to see, and we've got to make this fight happen, because both parties have kind of hinted like, you know what? I don't know if I really need it. Terence Crawford versus Errol Spence. Like I said, I wanted to talk about the fight between Ugas and Pacquiao's retirement immediately afterwards, because I was a bit surprised. I thought that Pacquiao was going to have quite the uphill battle against Spence, but I thought that Ugas would turn out to be an easier opponent. Turns out that wasn't the case. So now Ugas and Spence are going to be fighting each other, and I just thought, great, good, because you'll have the IBF, WBA, WBC titles, unify that. I don't think this is the thing now. Before, that would be considered the undisputed champion, but now you've got the WBO belt. You've got the IBO, but I don't think anybody really counts that. It's like, either way, can we get a little bit closer to an undisputed welterweight champion? Please? Either way, regardless if you count the WBO title or not, Crawford holds it. So whoever wins this bout between Spence and Ugas, they're going to have those 3 belts. Now you add Crawford, who's got the ring title, and he's got the WBO title. Add that to the mix. And, we're going to have exactly what we need. And my mistake, sorry. Nobody currently holds the Ring Magazine Championship. That's vacant. But the Ring does have Ugas rated number 3. Errol Spence number 2, Terence Crawford number 1. So whoever wins the bout between Spence and Ugas, that's going to be number 2. Then you're going to have number 1, and I think how the Ring does it, if 1 and 2 fight, then the winner gets to be the Ring Magazine champion. Great. I am all for that. Let's do it. Can we stop wasting time? This is something, this just shows that I'm getting older, but Terence Crawford is 34 years old. Errol Spence is 32. So, Spence has got a few more years, but Crawford, it's like, you're 34 years old. And you're also talking about how, you're ready and willing to move up to 154 pounds. It's like, no, don't move up yet. Welterweight. And I've heard rumors about Errol Spence wanting to move up. I've heard something about how he wanted to fight Canelo at 154 pounds. I don't think that's going to happen. Even if Canelo... It never would have happened, in my opinion. Canelo has always had problems making weight at 154 pounds. He could never do it. There's always a stipulation like, oh, well, it's got to be 155 or 156, 7, regardless. But this is just what I want, I know, we've got a long way to go until Christmas, but this is my Christmas wish. I hope that by the end of the year, we can get something established or have it already happen. But I want Spence versus Crawford. And you know what? Shame on me for even wishing that, because that's overlooking Yordenis Ugas. Okay? And people have done that all throughout his career, probably. I'm sure that people were not, betting on him heavily when he fought Manny Pacquiao, but he's the guy who ended Pacquiao's career, like it or not. So, I don't know. My gut says go with Errol Spence. And ever since he utterly obliterated Mikey Garcia, just neutralized him, I said that I would never bet against Errol Spence unless he was fighting Terence Crawford. Then it might be a real pick'em fight. But at the moment, it's hard for me not to side with Errol Spence just based on what I've seen. But you know what? We'll find out once we get to the fight. That's going to be taking place next month, April 16th. I don't know if I'll be able to watch it or not. We'll see. A lot coming up this month, or rather next month. But I really hope that. This is my solemn promise. I'm going to try and make a podcast covering the aftermath, or maybe even the lead up to Ugas versus Spence. So we'll see what happens, but it's not going to be another 9-month layoff for me. Hopefully not. Okay, now, I know this isn't a very long podcast. It's less than a half hour. But, I was checking my email box, and I saw something. It's like, wow, like a message from somebody I know. This is a letter from Jason McDonald. He listens to the podcast, and the email says, subject for the next show. It's like, oh, wow. Like, even though I haven't done one in a while, Jason's rooting for me. He's like, yeah, do another one. This is great. Oh, wow. What does the email say? Oh, Jason wants me to talk about the possibility of Tommy Fury, brother of Tyson Fury, Tommy Fury possibly taking on Jake. Why would you do this to me, Jason? What did I ever do to you? I just don't get it. I don't know whether I need to explain this very forcefully to the rest of the audience, but for anybody who has these curious questions that they wish to ask me, I'm just going to remind you rather gently, this is called the Boxing for Free podcast, not the Whoring for Free podcast. I'm sorry, I am not going to talk about internet celebrities masquerading as boxers. Now, and it's all speculative at this point, has Tommy Fury agreed to fight Jake Paul or Logan Paul? See, this is the problem. It's like I talked about earlier. I have a hard time differentiating between Jake and Logan Paul. It's like if somebody hands you a pile of cow feces, and then why would somebody actually hand you a pile of it? Let's just say they show you the pile of cow feces, and then they show you a pile of horse feces, and they say, okay, differentiate between the two. It's kind of like, well, they're all crap. What's the difference? I am not going to talk about the Paul brothers. No, I'm sorry. Gun to my head, or you better send some money my way. Don't look at me like that, because you know what? If you pay me, like, sure, maybe I'll talk about it. I may not enjoy it, but Jason seems to get some sort of perverse pleasure out of my anger and, raising my heartbeat to an unhealthy level. And maybe I can feel my heart, scraping my rib cage a bit. I don't care. Maybe he should, because it's kind of like, I don't know, maybe I'll sue him or something. But No, we are not talking about the Paul brothers. So this episode might not be what you would have expected for my first time back, but like I said, I'm going to be putting in an effort to try and continue to do the podcast in my normal fashion. I don't want to wait another 3 or 4 months between episodes. I am hopefully going to be back maybe in a week or two with another podcast talking about the upcoming fight between Errol Spence and Yordenis Ugas and the fights on the undercard and whatever boxing news is going to happen between then and now. But rest assured, you are going to have to put a gun to my head if you want me to talk about Jake or Logan Paul. Anyway, that's all I have for you for this episode. And remember, you got to stay tuned for the entire podcast. I mean, you gotta stick for the outro to find out why I refer to Vladimir Putin as Putin. We hope you enjoyed the latest edition of the Boxing for Free podcast. You can find us online at www.boxingforfree.com. That's boxing, the number 4, free.com. Twitter.com/boxingforfree. Be like Arislandi Lara, Robert Guerrero, Berman Stavern, Milorad Zizic, Adonis Stevenson, Glenn Johnson. Wow, that's a lot of famous boxers. And hundreds of others. And follow us on Twitter. Go to youtube.com/boxingforfree and like us on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/boxingforfree page. You can subscribe on iTunes, Podbean, and several other podcast directories. If you use iTunes, give us a review and let everyone know that the Boxing for Free podcast is your source for boxing news and commentary. I'm Andrew Schweitzer. Thank you for listening, and we hope you tune in next time.
I'm not too sure about Putin. You know, Putin reminds me too much of putain.
Putain is French slang for prostitute.
Thanks, I only had to ask you like a billion times.